Welcome to another scriptural study. In this scriptural topical and scriptural word study, we will be focusing on a scriptural topic known as Why Were Bereans Noble? And this scriptural study will focus on the scriptural passage from the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 11. As always, please feel free to stop the video at any time to further focus on the scriptural information being shared. And as always, please ensure that your computer screen, mobile phone screen, or iPad screen is on full view or full screen mode. As we go through this study, we are going to look at the 26 words that are encapsulated in this English translation of the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 11. And we will take the time to take this scriptural verse and organize it into 6 categories, as we can see here, to ensure that we fully understand why Bereans were called noble. As well, we have a 7th and final category, and this category revolves around the Emissary Sha'ul, known as the Apostle Paul today. And we're going to focus on some of his successes and failures as it further expands and highlights why Bereans were called noble. So, without further ado, let's get into this scriptural topical and scriptural word study, shall we? So again, let's break out the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 11, into these 6 categories, starting with category 1, to answer the question on now these were more noble. Who are these, and why were they more noble? We find the answer in the preceding scriptural passage, in Acts chapter 17, verse 10. Allow me to read it. And the brothers immediately sent Sha'ul and Silas away by night to Berea, who, having come, went into the congregation of the Yahudiym. So where is Berea on a map today? And what was it like anciently? Well, Berea was an ancient city of the Hellenistic period and Roman Empire, now known as Berea, in Macedonia, northern Greece, right here, very close to Thessalonica. It is a small city on the eastern side of the Vermeo Mountains, north of Mount Olympus. The town is mentioned in the Acts of the Apostles as a place where the apostles Paul and Silas and Timothy preached the good news. Now, what does it mean to be noble? Most people, when they see the word noble, will think of something like the British royals of noble birth. But is this what this verse is actually stating? Well, when we look into other scriptural versions, such as the International Standard Version, it reads in the following manner: these people were more receptive than those in Thessalonica. The New Living Translation states, and the people of Berea were more open-minded than those in Thessalonica. And finally, the Berean Study Bible states, now the Bereans were more noble-minded than the Thessalonians. Okay, we're getting closer, but what does this mean? So when we get into a scriptural study, we always look at the etymology. And if we do an interlinear search scripturally from Bible Hub with Acts chapter 17, verse 11, we get Strong's Concordance G2104. and this word right here. So what does this word actually mean? Well, in the Strong's Greek 2104 entry, Eugenes, we find out that it actually means noble in nature. That's interesting. Something to do with the character of a person or the character of a group of people. Breaking this out further, the word from the Greek Strong's entry 2104 comes from EU, the first breakdown of the word, and then the second breakdown of the word. Again, pardon my Greek, it's not that good in regards to pronunciation. It's genomai, which means to be generous. So let's break this out even further. So again, this entry from the Greek 2104 has two other entries in its root form. In the Greek 2095, it means to do well, or to complete something, as in the term well done, or to do something good or rightly. While the second entry in the Greek 1096 with genomai means to come into being, to happen, to become. A process of coming into being, to be born, to become, to come about, to happen. Okay, we're getting a little bit more information here that is letting us know what it means to be a noble Berean. If we go to the Helps Word Studies, we start to find out it further means to properly become or to emerge, transitioning from one point of realm or condition to another. Think about putting off the old man and putting on the new man in this case. Starts becoming a little bit more clear, isn't it? Why Sha'ul called them noble. It signifies a change of condition. It means to come into being, manifestation implying motion, movement, or growth. If you look at it further, it gives us a scriptural passage from the Helps Word Studies to focus on. And thus it is used for YaHUaH's actions as emerging from eternity and becoming or showing themselves as being different in time. And thus why 2 Kepha, or Peter, chapter 1, verse 4, was actually used. Let me read it. Through these there have been given to us exceedingly great and precious promises, so that through these you might be partakers of the mighty-like nature, a different character, a new man. Why? Well, because noble Bereans are striving to escape from the corruption in the world caused by lust. So as we can see, we are starting to get much closer to what it means to truly be a scriptural noble Berean. The Apostle Paul, known correctly as the Emissary Sha'ul, had many successes and failures. He called himself a wretched man. And as a result, he knew the difference between being noble and not being noble. And thus he could make the determination between why the folks in Berea were acting more noble than those in Thessalonica. Let's get into this a little further and why Sha'ul, the emissary, knew this. With a little bit more of a deeper dive, using e-sword, we will start to see that they use the word more noble. And we get again the Greek entry 2104, more noble, even from the King James Version. In the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, we get the very same thing. Well, what does this mean? Well, from e-sword, it starts to provide some of the scriptural passages associated to being more noble. And we can find these in books known as the Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge, or TSK. So, the very first entry is from Mishle, meaning truth, or Proverbs today, chapter 1, verse 5, and is linked to Proverbs chapter 9, verse 9 as well, which states, "Give instruction to a wise one, and he is wiser still. Teach a righteous one, and he increases in learning." As we move forward, we start to learn that the Proverbs 1:5 entry states that the wise one hears and increases learning, and the understanding one gets wise counsel. A noble Berean does not lean on their own understanding. They trust YaHUaH with all their heart, soul, and mind or being. Just as we can read in the book of Mishle or Truth, now known today as Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. Again, noble Bereans do not worry about receiving esteem from one another like world religions do. A noble Berean is only interested in the esteem that is from the only Almighty One. Yes, the Almighty Father of lights, known as YaHUaH. This is what noble Bereans seek. They don't seek the esteem from another person, male or female, from world religions, let alone self-prescribed teachers, pastors, etc. Again, a noble Berean is not concerned who is right, but is concerned with what is right. Again, we're not worried about the esteem from others. So Sha'ul, when he was trained by rabbis, he was one of the most trained apostles in the law. Yes, the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. And as we know, through the life of Sha'ul, that changed, didn't it? So Esard provides another excellent lead for us to fully understand why these folks in Berea were noble, or more noble, than those in Thessalonica. If we go to a little bit of a deeper dive with the Greek entry 2104, it talks about being noble-minded. But the Hebrew equivalent in the Strong's H1419, known as gadol, basically gives us further evidence that it means to become great in intensity, in sound, and in time, in age. And the origin or root word for this Hebrew word comes from the Strong's entry 1431, which states to grow, become great or important, promote. Promote what? YaHUaH, and what the Messiah, Yahushua, taught, the Son, taught the good news of deliverance from YaHUaH. This is what noble Bereans promote. And they make it powerful. They praise YaHUaH. They magnify YaHUaH, the Father of lights, and they do great things. But in the process, they grow up to become great, to be magnified. And they magnify YaHUaH, not themselves. So we also get further information from the TWOT in entry 315, which states, to grow up, become great or important, promote, make powerful, praise YaHUaH, do great things in the name of YaHUaH. And they understand that they can do nothing on their own without the support of the Messiah, Yahushua. This is from the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, from the Strong's entry for the Hebrew 1431 gadol, which is the Hebrew equivalent of the Greek words. Again, the Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew and English lexicon supports the same information. So as we can see, being a noble Berean takes incredible discipline and obedience. Even the exhaustive concordance from the NAS, New American Standard, states it's to come into being, to happen, to become. Yes, you're working out your own deliverance. If you're a noble Berean, you're fully realizing that you have to work out your own deliverance. You have to become more receptive to the word, more open-minded, more noble-minded. And as we move forward with this study, it becomes clear that we might be partakers of the mighty-like nature. Why? Because we have to escape from the corruption of this world caused by lust. We have to properly emerge from the world, transition from the old man, that one point, that old realm, that old condition, to another condition, putting on the new man. And it signifies a change of condition, meaning to become motion, movement, or growth into the new man. So again, Sha'ul knew these Bereans were more noble than those in Thessalonica. Well, why were they more noble than those in Thessalonica? Thessalonica was a city referred to as the mother of Macedonia in Roman writings. Please check out who the mother of Macedonia is. You'll be horrified. As well, Thessalonica was a wealthy city with a mint. It printed money, so to speak, and had a Roman, Greek, and Jewish population. The Emissary Sha'ul traveled to Thessalonica from Philippi, and most people think somewhere in the time period of 50 CE, or the Common Era. And he went to the synagogue for 3 Sabbath days, as we can read in Acts chapter 17 through verses 1 through 9. Some proselyte Greeks and the chief women believed Sha'ul's preaching. The Jews, though, did not believe, and they caused an uproar in the city and assaulted the house of Jason in order to bring out the emissary Sha'ul and Silas. The people took Jason, Sha'ul's host, and other believers to the rulers, accusing Jason of harboring traitors to Caesar. Jason and the other brethren were given a bond on the agreement that Sha'ul would leave the area. Sha'ul and Silas, as a result, were sent away immediately by night to Berea. And as we confirmed in Acts chapter 17, verse 10, this is exactly what happened. Yes, indeed, the folks in Berea were far more noble-minded than those in Thessalonica. Again, for some reason, Thessalonica and some of the folks there were not being partakers of the mighty-like nature. They weren't escaping from the corruption of the world caused by lust. And obviously this could be various reasons. They were not trusting in YaHUaH with all their heart. They were leaning on their own understanding, regrettably. Again, most people that cannot escape the world are still imprisoned in world religions, in the practice of being more concerned of receiving esteem from each other rather than only seeking and receiving the esteem that is from the only Almighty One. Yes, the Almighty Father of lights, YaHUaH himself. So, finally, both history and the archaeological record comes to aid once again. As we previously mentioned, the city of Thessalonica was referred to as the mother of Macedonia in Roman writings. Yes, what they called the Great Mother, or Magna Mater, is one of the most notable and representative artifacts found in Macedonia. Just like today, mother worship was alive and well in Thessalonica, and it's something we want to avoid like the Black Plague. So moving forward, the folks in Berea were more noble because they were more receptive, more open-minded, more noble-minded to receive the mighty-like nature, because they were ready to receive the word. They were ready to receive YaHUaH, the first begotten one from our Father YaHUaH, the Almighty Father of lights. They were ready to receive the word. And with great eagerness, as we can see in category 4. They were ready to receive the word, but with eagerness. And not just simple eagerness, but great eagerness. And we covered this in previous scriptural study videos entitled, Are You an Antichrist or Anti-Messiah? The second video is Jesus Christ an Anti-Messiah, because if you know your Greek panthology of Greek deities, false gods if you will, Isus Christos, where we get the name Jesus Christ, was a Greek deity. The noble Bereans had enough of false gods, including Isus Christos, which eventually became Jesus Christ. So again, they were more receptive, they were more open-minded about letting go false worship, false deity worship. Thus, they were more noble-minded. Again, they were ready to let it all go, not worry about the esteem from people in world religions at the time. They were ready to be partakers of the mighty-like nature. They wanted to escape from the corruption in the world caused by lust. So, again, we cover this further in another scriptural study video entitled Our Gift of Truth, Yes, the Word, Yes, YaHUaH, Hallelujah. So, these were more noble than those in Thessalonica for the reasons we just shared. And the big one, they received the word with great eagerness, and then they do what? They searched the scriptures daily. What? Yes, they took the time to search the scriptures daily. And noble Bereans even number their days daily. Not for one day a month, but every day in every scriptural month. And when they searched the scriptures daily, what were they looking at? Well, a very good follow-up is if you found out the list of the Dead Sea Scrolls, meaning what scriptural books were in the Dead Sea Scrolls, you would learn very quickly that the Old Covenant was made up of Moshe's books, the Psalms, and all the books we now know today that are in the Old Covenant. But they also included the book of Enoch. They were searching this book daily. They were searching the book of Jubilees daily, the book of Jasher daily. So just like noble Bereans number their days daily, they searched these scriptures daily. And what did they do with them? They tested and proved to see if those words in those books were so. They proved all things, held fast to that which is good. And how did they do that? Yes, they went outside in creation to test and prove. This is how they knew to number their days successfully, just like we can today. So again, in Acts chapter 8, verse 15, the Emissary Sha'ul says to the folks in this location, but if it is a question of words and names and a law which is among you, the sheriff of this particular town in, again, the Greek province, did not want Sha'ul preaching about scriptural words, scriptural names, and a scriptural law. He did not want anyone testing and proving if the words from the Old Covenant, which included the book of Enoch, Jubilees, and Jasher, he didn't want anybody verifying that information with individual words, the names of Scripture, the true names, and the law, which includes the appointed times of YaHUaH. This particular sheriff, if you read about Acts 18, verse 15, really came down hard on the Emissary Sha'ul, and he wanted to stop it in its tracks because it was causing a great commotion. We've covered this in previous scriptural study videos. So as you can see, when you do a deeper dive and take this one scriptural verse from Acts chapter 17, verse 11, and break it out into these 6 categories, you learn much more. And truth be known, we are only touching the surface. There is far more. Please allow me to continue. Do you remember the Greek entry 2104 in the Strong's, Eugenes, and it was broken out into 2 words? As we've seen here from 2095 with EU or you, and then the second word that follow it from the Greek entry 1096. Do you remember that? Well, let's do a little deeper dive into this further. Because the Hebrew equivalent to the Greek EU, which means to be well off, farewell, prosper, acting well, is the Hebrew word yatab. Well, what does that mean? Yatab means to be able to discern, understand, consider, to perceive, discern, to understand, know with the mind, to observe, know the marks, like in the sun, moon, and stars, and the signs they provide. Give heed to, distinguish, consider. So again, we're getting much closer to what a noble Berean is. A noble Berean knows how to rightly handle the word of truth. And if we look at this closer, it's all about continuous improvement. Because it's hard work to do our utmost to present ourselves approved to the Almighty Father of lights, YaHUaH himself. Yes, it's hard to be a worker who does not need to be ashamed of rightly handling the word of truth. It takes discernment, just like the definition of the words noble Berean actually mean. You have to plan. You have to do that work. Study your studies and research them to ensure they're correct and adjust from the things that you've got wrong and start that process over. It's continuous improvement. It never ends. So again, noble Bereans have an intent to be those from among you that want and have a desire to build the old waste places. We have a desire to raise up the foundations of many generations so that we have possibly could be called the repairers of the breach, the restorers of the streets to dwell in. This is what the etymology scripturally is giving us in regards to the true scriptural definition of what it means to be a noble Berean. And this is why I put this at the ending of every email that I have. I thank people that do the work. And as such, we've created, with the help of many noble Bereans that are striving to become truly noble, that have helped with a proposed scriptural study format that researches scriptural studies word for word, letter for letter, from the Old Covenant, along with the renewed covenant, with 2 or 3 or more witnesses, backed up by etymology, history, archaeology, astronomy, and so forth. And we do many workshops with the proposed scriptural study format. If anyone is interested in attending this workshop, the workshop is intended for people that are striving to become noble. Please reach out to us at family1@rogers.com if you're interested in this type of work. The workshop is about continuous improvement and learning how to improve your study skills on a daily basis. Again, it's not about looking to receive the esteem from one another. To improve our scriptural study skills has one intent, and that is to receive the esteem that is from the only Almighty Father of lights, YaHUaH himself. The proposed scriptural study format gets rid of Christian eschatology. It gets rid of all world religious approaches. It further promotes a process to only trust in YaHUaH with all our hearts, so that none of us lean on our own understanding. So again, Breaking out this study in 6 categories has been very value added, profitable, if you will, no matter where we've taken it to in regards to Bereans in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Australia, both North and South America, let alone Europe. It has been very successful. And every time we do another workshop, each and every one of us learn something more every time on improving our scriptural study practices and behaviors. Again, it is a gift in this day and age that we can study scriptural words, scriptural names, and the law, which includes the appointed times of YaHUaH. Again, this is why this particular YouTube channel, if you go into the About section, you will see the description as labeled as follows. This channel is dedicated to the pursuit of producing scriptural studies in words, names, and the law, which includes the scriptural calendar, let alone prophetic subject matter as per Acts chapter 18, verse 15. The purpose of these scriptural studies is to praise and esteem the Almighty Father of lights, YaHUaH himself, the self-existent one, the I am that I am. Why? Because we are just Bereans, as per Acts chapter 17, verse 11, and as such we are not teachers and or leaders, as our only teacher is the Messiah, Yahushua, as per YaHUaH chapter 23, verses 8 through 9. And we do not claim to be prophets, but do indeed watch for the scriptural signs the prophets shared from both the Old Covenant and the Renewed Covenant. Our intent is to work out our own deliverance, as per Philippians chapter 2, verses 12 through 18, keeping in mind a scriptural focus on Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 35, verse 8, chapter 55, verse 8, etc., with a 2 Timothy 2:15 approach, which means to rightly handle the word of truth, striving to produce scriptural fruit as per Galatians 5:22, the fruit of the Spirit. And we always ask everyone that surrounds us and that we surround ourselves with, may the peace of the Almighty YaHUaH, which surpasses all understanding, guard your heart and mind through Messiah Yahushua, as we can read in the book of Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. Hallelujah. Praise Yah indeed. So the more I study Scripture, yes, the letter of the law, as compared to the spirit of the law, I finally have figured out why Sha'ul, the emissary, cried out. In fact, he shu'ad, or shua, which means to cry out to the Father of lights for his deliverance. Because the more studies that we have done, regrettably, the more I realize how wretched that I am. I finally realize why Sha'ul broke down and cried out, "Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death?" He knew, even with all of his training. Yes, Sha'ul was more trained in the letter of the law than all other apostles. But he did not know how to establish the law in the spirit of the law. And this is why he cried out. And the more scriptural studies that I've done, I realize as well why I am still a wretched man striving to become noble. Again, it took me a long time to learn what pride was. It took me a long time to learn not to be concerned with who is right, but to be concerned with what is right. This is a great leap forward in striving to become more noble. A great leap and stride forward. And the Apostle Paul, yes, the Emissary Sha'ul, knew this as well. He was actually killing believers. And as we know from the writings, he had to get woken up, so to speak. And we are fully aware of what happened to Sha'ul, aren't we? Yes, and it came to be that as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light flashed around him from the heaven. And he fell to the ground, and heard a voice saying to him, Sha'ul, Sha'ul, why do you persecute me? And he said, Who are you, Master? And the Master said, I am YaHUaH, whom you persecute. It is hard for you to kick against the prods. Yes, this saying is a saying that means rebellion. Yes, Sha'ul was proud with his world religious training of being taught in the letter of the law, in Judaism, Talmudic Judaism at that, if you will. Again, Sha'ul was caught up in world religions and was more concerned about receiving esteem from others rather than just receiving the esteem that is from the only Almighty One, the Father of lights, the Almighty Father of lights, YaHUaH himself. Again, he was more concerned with being right rather than being concerned with what is right. He wasn't striving to become noble, like the Bereans that he witnessed in Berea, as compared to those in Thessalonica. So, how do we know this? As time went on, Sha'ul became a great emissary. His discernment skills were refined thanks to the guidance of our only teacher, the Messiah, Yahushua. In fact, the Emissary Sha'ul gives us 84 Sabbath witnesses. And if you look at each of these verses and you add up the total Sabbaths he participated in, that equates to 84 Sabbath witnesses. This is powerful. So for all you folks out there that come to this YouTube channel and attack the Emissary Sha'ul, we will respond with iron sharpening iron, with the scriptures. Sha'ul quoted the Old Covenant more than any other emissary or apostle. Again, our only teacher stated for the celebration of Shavuot, the appointed times of Shavuot, and he stated this in the first month of Abib. And he stated there are still 4 months and the harvest comes. The harvest of weeks, the festival of weeks. Our only teacher knew that. And today we can test and prove that with the signs of the sun, moon, and scriptural stars. We tested and proved that here in 2021 just recently. The same sign existed in 2020, and the same sign existed in 2019. Sha'ul knew these signs. How do we know this? Because he knew that Shavuot was in the second division, after the summer solstice. He knew the 4 divisions of the year. Why? Because noble Bereans study the Word with great eagerness, which included the Old Covenant writings along with the book of Hanok, Jubilees, and the book of Yasher. And as such, we know for a fact, etymologically, scripturally, historically, and astronomically, that Shavuot is in Division 2 in the summer months after the summer solstice. We further know this by 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 8. And there is a reason why the Emissary Sha'ul remained in Ephesus until the Festival of Weeks. Because if you sailed in month 1, 2, and 3, you would be taking your life in your hands. It was not safe to travel until you could see Pleiades starting from the 4th watch, the dawn, up until sunrise. You did not get on a boat in the first month of Abib from Ephesus to go to Jerusalem. You'd be taking your life in your hands. The seas were rough, and at that time, a lot of shipwrecks. You would not go in the 2nd month. You would not go in the 3rd month. Again, this is basic navigational information even in this day, which we've covered in many scriptural study videos already. It's basic. Again, we covered this just recently as well in this scriptural study video entitled New Wine of Shavuot and Fifth New Moon, based on the book of Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 15. And 1 week before the fifth new moon, we shared the study Numbering Our Days to the Fifth New Moon and Shavuot. If you're interested, please have a look. Again, we cover this information in great detail in workshops both online and outside in creation, where we can test and prove what the sun, moon, and stars actually do. Not rely on me or a world religion or any human being, but what the Father of Lights provides to tell time. Again, if interested, please reach out to us on our email address at family1@rogers.com. Sha'ul was very aware, to be more clear, of the esteem of the sun, the esteem of the moon, and the other esteem of the stars, because the stars had 7-star clusters such as the Bear, Ursa Major, and its 2 sons with Arcturus and Spica or Abib, along with the 7-star cluster of Pleiades, as we just referred to, let alone Hamal. He knew about the scriptural stars, and as such, as in alignment with the sun and moon, he knew when to travel safely on the open seas in the Mediterranean. He also was aware of what we now know today as the man-made anomaly, where every once in a while, 2 to 3 times a year, if your only witness is the full moon greeting the sun at sunrise, it's a great witness, but 2 to 3 times a year, it doesn't work. But if you follow all of the witnesses with the full illumination of the moon, and also when a true scriptural day starts, commencing at the 4th watch, dawn, or first light, you then know that every new moon day is the same everywhere on earth, and thus Sabbaths, feast days, prophecy, etc. But again, we're pretty sure there's going to be those out there that are going to kick against the prods and be rebellious about the basics, but we have to count on that. And those types of folks are very valuable in the sense that in time they prove what they do wrong, and as such, that's valuable as well. We don't judge them for it, but it's the mistakes that we can learn from as well. And we value that too, let alone the mistakes that each and every one of us make. And this is a further witness in regards to understanding that we are striving still to become noble. It's the most noble thing I've ever been a part of. And why I am so pleased and joyful that the Emissary Sha'ul, yes, the Apostle Paul, shared his successes and failures, and as such knew why he was a wretched man. He has helped me understand why I am a wretched man, and that I have still work to do to become noble. So, this study has been very enlightening for me, and as I shared already, we've only skimmed the surface, because we plan on doing, YaHUaH willing of course, another study on the letter of the law as compared or versus the spirit of the law. And the journey of the Emissary Sha'ul is all about this journey and how they're both the same, but he understood that he wasn't establishing the law correctly in his life. And this is why Yahushua had to set him straight. And this is why Sha'ul wrote in chapter 3 of the book of Romans, verse 31, "Do we then nullify the Torah through the belief? Let it not be. On the contrary, we establish the Torah." And becoming a noble Berean is fully encapsulated with that constant learning how to establish the law in all circumstances that our lives throw at us. So hopefully we get to do this further study down the road very soon. We think in another 3 scriptural months we'll get at this, and it's been a long time in coming. But again, Acts chapter 17, verse 11, really allowed us to learn more of this, and we continue to learn more of this as time goes on. Again, pride is concerned with who is right. Humility is concerned with what is right. This was a big hurdle for me personally, and I combat it every day as a result of other Bereans who are striving to become noble. They've been very helpful with my challenges that I have to overcome, taking off that old man and putting on the new man. So again, we hope you have enjoyed this proposed scriptural study format, really doing deep dives in the Word. And like I said, this is still a high level. There's much more to this study, and we cover this in the proposed scriptural study format calls if interested. So again, this scriptural topical and scriptural word study, we can only hope, has provided value to you and your loved ones. So until next time, YaHUaH willing, may our Father of lights keep and guard you, and may the Messiah Yahushua, our only teacher, be in everything we all say and do. All the best, everyone.